Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, let's go, because the number one story hits home. We have the firebombing of several Tesla dealerships that have been going on for the last couple of months. You know, you've seen a lot of people get their Teslas keyed. You've seen a lot of the viral videos being passed around of people spray painting or keying a Tesla. I saw one lady relieving herself on a Tesla. It's like, look, that's one thing if a guy does it. If a girl does it, it's, I don't know, maybe a little bit worse. I don't know. They're both pretty bad. But check this out. Pam Bondi actually mentioned our neighbors up in Plano. I mean, not for a good reason. It's just interesting to see that, you know, the biggest story with all the flaming Teslas going on all over the country now, that there's now a local connection to this. She explained yesterday in a video that she put online.
I've made it clear, if you take part in the wave of domestic terrorism against Tesla properties, we will find you, arrest you, and put you behind bars. Today, I'm proud to announce that the Department of Justice has unsealed federal charges against another Tesla attacker. We've charged Cooper Frederick in the firebombing of a Tesla dealership that occurred on March 7th in Loveland, Colorado.
Cooper.
All of these cases are a serious threat to public safety. Therefore, there will be no negotiating. We are seeking 20 years in prison. The crime was committed in Colorado, and thanks to the great investigative work by the FBI, the defendant was arrested in Plano, Texas. Let this be a warning. You can run, but you cannot hide. Justice is coming.
Ooh, justice is coming. Cooper, why would you do that? Cooper, why would you? And I love it because you could tell almost, you probably picture the guy in your head. You know, he's a bourgeois, effeminate, probably white, liberal, who has had a super cushy upbringing, because they do the thing that we didn't do it when we were kids, but sometime when you and I were in school and now, like, they started naming their kids first names, last names, right? Because you have, maybe Taylor Swift was the first. So there was like a Taylor, and then there's like Parker, and there's Montgomery, and then here's Cooper, and my nephew's Hudson. So my sister's a teacher right now. She's not listening, so you don't have to worry about me making fun of her kids' names. Mom, don't tell her. But yes, at some point, they started naming their kids' last names. Windsor. I'm just going through my daughter's soccer team, by the way. But yeah, Cooper's in trouble. Got arrested in Plano. Now, he's not from here. I think it said he's from Colorado, or he lives in Colorado now. The firebomb was in Colorado. And what was he doing here? Just staying back home with his parents? Or I don't know the details. But I'm asking you, where do we draw the line here? Because I think you and I agree, and most sane people, hell, even Bill Maher agrees at this point, that this is the firebombing, the arson, the destroying, property damage, and firebombing of Tesla dealerships and charging stations. This is going over the line into sort of terrorism territory. Now, I hesitate to use that term because you and I know that when terrorism in its current form entered the lexicon, it was after 9/11. We're like, yes, we're all in a war on terror. Not a war against Islamic terror, not a war against Muslim terror, not a war against Middle East terror, not a war against some sort of more specific ideology, just the ethereal concept of terror. Yes, we're upset when anyone does an attack or violence or intimidation based on a political belief. But I do not put Cooper in the same category as the guys you saw in years past who would have some infidels on their knees in a jumpsuit with the bag over their head and then saw off their head on a viral video and share it around the world. Cooper is not the same as that. Clearly not. Cooper's not sawing anyone's head off. No one died. His bit is property destruction. So this does meet the dictionary definition of terrorism, as we all agreed on it about 20, 25 years ago. But we got to draw a line somewhere, because these little goobers that just go by and key someone's Cybertruck, are they terrorists? I guess technically they're doing intimidation, violence and intimidation for a political cause on a civilian target. So I guess technically that's terrorism too. But how do you put the key guy? I was playing you the viral video yesterday, the guy that got busted. He's like, I'm sorry, you misunderstand me. I feel bad for what I did. That's not nearly the same thing as the guy sawing off heads over in the Syrian desert. So is it terrorist? I guess. Is it the same as what we used to consider terrorism? Absolutely not. Should they go to jail for a long time? Maybe not the key guy, but the firebomb guy? Sure. If you're intentionally setting infrastructure ports on fire, if you're using Molotov cocktails to send a political message. And who's running around spraying swastikas? How many swastikas do you have to spray and you still get to call your political opponents a Nazi? Anyway, these are all rhetorical questions. I just wanted to get you caught up because I thought you'd be interested in the Plano connection. And Pam Bondi actually mentioned us last night. The new U.S. Attorney General, Pam Bondi, got us a shout out. Not for good reasons, but hey, shout out nonetheless. I will continue to keep an eye on this, primarily because I love the video and audio that comes from it. But also, man, when are these kids going to calm down? And do you think they're ever going to regret it? Coming up next, you're going to get all caught up on what's going on in the foreign policy front. We got a lot of drama overseas with Russia and Ukraine and Gaza and Israel, and now Iran's popping off with the Houthis going nuts. And Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur from Rigaku will help us get all caught up on what's going on the foreign policy front next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, homeowners, listen to me, especially homeowners who are in a few places. Wiley, that whole area. If you're in the Arlington, more specifically Pantego, DFW's favorite speed trap, or all the way down, we had reports of big storms for our listeners in a big stretch from about the Buc-ee's at Madisonville to just south of A&M's campus. I know, we cover a wide swath here. We're getting reports of people with roof issues in these neighborhoods. So if you have any doubt, and these are places that describe where your house is, you might want to call Blue Ribbon Roofing. James Parker here for BlueRibbonDFW.com. You're going to be calling a family-owned business that's been here in North Texas for 31 years. It was started by the husband and wife team, John and Tish. Now their adult son, Trevor's in the mix. And these people, not only have they been here for 30 years, they're going to be here long enough that if you ever have problems, God forbid you ever need to cash in on that warranty or the lifetime guarantee, they'll be here to do it. They're not going to go pull up stakes and go to the next big storm center as soon as they get done with your house. These aren't chasers. These aren't people that just go from storm to storm, sticking signs in the medians of roads. This is a company that's been with us for 31 years. You don't know who to trust? Well, you can trust me, or you can bypass me and go look at the hundreds of 5-star Google reviews. Can you trust hundreds of people who've already had positive experience with BlueRibbonDFW.com? So go ahead, check them out, get the free inspection. If you need help getting paid for it, dealing with the insurance company, they're pretty good at that too. So BlueRibbonDFW.com. You mentioned you heard it on the James Show. If you do need a new roof, you get a free ridge vent ventilation upgrade. So go to BlueRibbonDFW.com. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. We talked a lot about the domestic headlines. Let's look at foreign policy. We got Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur. He's a expert in chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear at Rigaku. Welcome back to the James Show, Dr. Jeffrey.
Thank you very much, sir. Good to be with you.
All right, I want to talk about the three big hot spots here, starting off with Russia, Ukraine. Do they have a ceasefire or not?
Kind of, sort of, not really.
Yeah, that's the best. That's what I see.
The ceasefire was supposed to address regions of the Baltic, that zone, and then critical infrastructure for oil refineries and that sort of stuff. So about, I think, maybe 3 days after there was a general agreement, there were general violations on both sides. I think we're doing everything we can to hold that bit of the potential ceasefire together. Right now with baling wire and Scotch tape, albeit.
Well, what's the holdup? What can we not agree on, or what can Ukraine and Russia not agree on?
So Ukraine right now doesn't, in my estimation, does not have a lever of power. They are going to be spoon-fed the peace deal or the ceasefire, and they will accept it willingly, no matter how bitter that is going down. Russia appears to hold almost all the cards now. This is not unusual for Putin. He is positioning his forces to create a military advantage prior to agreeing to any ceasefire or peace talks. Most experts believe that the one thing that Putin is proficient at is violating peace treaties. And he will find the time and the space, potentially after President Trump leaves office, to violate the next peace treaty as well. So he wants to position his forces so that he has the tactical advantage should he choose to do that in the future.
All right, let's move on to the next hot spot, Israel, Gaza. Are those kids ever going to get along?
Hopefully not. And Israel will be successful at the day. I think Hamas is on its last leg. They have no power, no levers of power is whenever they give up all of the hostages willingly or not. And when that happens, they really have no credentials with the international community or their domestic community.
How many hostages do they have left?
That's a very good question. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah.
It's not many, but the big question in my mind is, are they alive or not?
Right. The last report I saw, it was in the teens, but I got to admit that was a couple years ago. So a couple years ago, it was a couple weeks ago. So the other hot spot I wanted to ask you about is the whole proxy war with Iran via the Houthi rebels. There was a bombing last week. We were supposed to be all concerned that this was going to explode into something big. It hasn't, but what has it become?
Well, it depends on what side of the pond your perspective is. If you're on this side of the Atlantic pond, the signal gate is what you're kind of focused on. And in my estimation, that's really more of a nothing sandwich than anything else.
Of course.
If you're from Iran, you've just been disgraced by the U.S. military again, and you need to save face with your local population. So you do the only thing you can. You threaten violence in the near future, and you implement it whenever you can. They're not faring very well, Iran, right now. Outside of rhetoric, they have fewer ballistic missiles than they did a year ago because Israel shot about 300 of them down when Iran tried to rain ballistic missiles down on Israel. And they supplied the Houthis and Hezbollah, and both of those took a whipping. So they don't have a lot of credentials right now. What they are doing is threatening to target U.S. service members stationed in the Middle East. They're threatening to target Diego Garcia, which is south of India.
Can they even get to that?
Yeah, with a really strong tailwind. The question is, how accurate can they be?
Right.
I don't think so. I think they're still, a couple of inches off, and then closing down the Straits of Hormuz, which, I don't know about the cost benefit to that course of action, because all they're going to do is irritate their friends and neighbors. Iraq, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar. Many of those are very rich and influential neighbors around there, and they're going to cut off the only sea access they have for exports and imports. But it can be done.
Okay, so with all that covered, where do you think we'll be in a month or two? Because I really feel like a couple of these could just be wrapped up. Iran could go quiet. I think Russia and Ukraine could come to some sort of peace agreement. I'm less optimistic about the Israel-Gaza situation, but I really feel like some of these hotspots are in a wind down.
Unfortunately, they can, right? But the one thing that they believe in that area of the world is crushing skulls. So they understand rule of force. They understand strength. If I were in charge for a day, this would be my solution. For Iran, I would give Israel the green light to destroy infrastructure inside of Iran that is military and critical infrastructure is always associated with their natural resources. In the United States, I would take Iranian citizen students and deport them back to Europe or Iran. It really doesn't matter. The students are more important because they have parents back in Iran that are paying or footing the bill for this, or the government is. And so there would be a mouthpiece back in Iran expressing discontent that it sort of led to this. And then I put the U.S. military in a position of what we call direct support to Israeli Defense Forces. In other words, as Israel targeted sites inside of Iran, if any Iranian aircraft would fly, it would die. If any Iranian maritime vessel touched the water, it would die. I would identify it as likely hostile target. And so that would effectively neuter Iran. And then what we really need is the young population to sort of rise up against the leadership and choose their version of the government. And Russia is a little trickier. It's a three-dimensional chessboard. Remember, they have all the elements of weapons of mass destruction. They have chemical weapons, they have biological weapons, radiological, and nuclear, and they've threatened to use nuclear weapons in recent history. There's documented proof that they use riot control agents in the Ukrainian area of operations. So I would feel uncomfortable pushing them in a corner. However, the central bank of Russia, I think, is and should be the target. To the degree that Department of Treasury can freeze their funding and their ability to do business for the government of Russia, and to the degree the European Union would be willing to cooperate in that endeavor, we would effectively put a stranglehold on Russia. And if that were not enough, I would ask the director of U.S. Cyber Command to unleash malware to sort of add to the congestion in financial transactions.
A cyber attack, malware? Yeah.
Why not? Why not? But
yeah, just for funsies.
We need to be careful. I'm sorry?
Go ahead. One thing we need to be careful of?
Yeah, we need to be careful that, remember, the more pressure we put on Iran and Russia, we're just going to increase the dependency between Russia, Iran, China, and North Korea.
All right,
They're all bonded brothers, and it's like playing a game of whack-a-mole, right? When you knock one down, another one comes up on the other side of the geography.
All right, Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur from Rigaku. I wanted to get an update on all three of the big hot spots, and I think you nailed it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good day.
All right, coming up next, one of the biggest pop stars in America, Chappell Roan, if you know the name. She says she doesn't know anyone with kids who is happy. Now, could that possibly be true, or has she just been programmed to think, family life, oh, that's boring? Is this just anti-family drivel? You'll hear her statement next, coming up on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Ladies, you are going to have some strong opinions on this, because I did when I heard the video, and then I was sort of talking to my wife and a couple of her friends, and they're more mad about it than I am. Do you know who Chappell Roan is? You know, Pink Pony Club. Na, 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 na. She was on Saturday Night Live like last month sometime. Anyway, she's one of the biggest pop stars in the world right now. She's on like her 4th top 10 hit, and she's not bad. Look, I have 4 young kids, so I know all these people at this point, not by choice. But Chappell Roan was in an interview here, and she says none of her friends with kids are happy. Check this out.
All of my friends who have kids are in hell.
In hell.
I don't know anyone. I actually don't know anyone who's like happy and has children at this age. I have like a 1-year-old, like 3-year-old, 4 and under, 5 and under. I literally have not met anyone who's happy, anyone who has like light in their eyes, anyone who has slept.
So no one that has young kids that is in her orbit seems happy. Okay, a couple of questions here. Could that possibly even be true? Or is this just her perception of it? If it is true, are they really unhappy, or are we just conditioned to talk about, oh man, being a parent is so hard. I hadn't slept in like 3 months, and oh my God, it's so difficult. Like we've made victimhood such a moral imperative that people rush out there to act like what victims they are and what difficulties they have with life. And I don't know why we discourage people run around saying, oh man, my life's great, doing so good, got a great family, love it, new kids. Yeah, I hadn't slept very much, but it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Well, that's how people where I'm from talk about little kiddos. So is this a city culture thing? Is this just because she has her friends that are in Hollywood? But then there's also a couple of other questions like, okay, let's go ahead and give her the benefit of the doubt. She probably only has a handful of close friends in her orbit that are going through young childhood right now. And maybe like they only tell her the stories about the crazy stuff that happens, or maybe she has a handful of friends that really are not happy right now. You know, going through postpartum depression, your life is kind of wrecked for a minute. It's a huge transition going from just living for yourself to living for the little people that you make. So I'll go and give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe the 5, 6, 7 friends that she has that have gone through this phase of life that are close enough that she feels comfortable, you know, making this judgment. Maybe they're not happy, but why, even if they're not, who said that's a bad thing? Maybe you're not supposed to be happy for the first couple of years you have a kid. You're not supposed to be happy because it's difficult, because they can't take care of themselves, because you've gone from waking up and doing whatever you want to do outside of work all day, every day, to now your life is chained to this person who will die without your help. And you have this innate biological instinct to just worry in ways that didn't exist before, and you're trying to figure all that out. I never worried about dying. I mean, not seriously worried about dying until I had kids. Like now I'm like, oh my God, I got to get some life insurance. If something happens to me, you know, who's going to take care of them? You know, there's a whole nother level of concern and worry and responsibility that comes with having a kid. But why is that a bad thing? You know, I don't know. I try not to be political when I hear things like this, but I feel like part of modern America, part of this modern evolution of feminism, they've taken the most natural thing any woman who's ever existed can possibly do and equate it to hell. And I don't know if this is narcissism. I think we use that word too much. It's just a base selfishness, really. That the idea that sacrificing your well-being or sacrificing your health or your time in any shape or form and living for someone other than yourself, this is slavery now? Is that what this is? Because I don't know if they're really upset or if they've just been brainwashed to think that. But you're not supposed to be happy all the time. Something I tell my kids and something that coaches try and tell all of their players is that anything worth having in life, any accomplishment worth having in life, you're going to have to suffer for it. There's going to be long stretches of unhappiness. Whether it's something big and majestic as George Washington, you know, in the Revolutionary War, going through all those winters, losing all that battle, losing your only son who got sick from exposure as a soldier in the Revolutionary War. You think he enjoyed that? Or was it still the right thing to do? Aren't you glad he pursued it anyway? You think Gandhi enjoyed the hunger strikes? Or let's bring it more local. You think Emmitt Smith to become the greatest rusher of all time, the most yards ever, the greatest running back in NFL history. You think he enjoyed all that running, all that lifting, all the practicing, all the injuries, all the getting banged up? He didn't get to go out and party with all his friends because he had to keep on a routine. He didn't get to go out and eat whatever he wanted and just have ice cream for dinner if he felt like. He had to adhere to a not fun regimen for a bigger purpose. There's another local icon, guy named Ronnie Coleman. You know who Ronnie Coleman is? For like a few years in a row, he was Mr. Olympia, like the biggest muscle-bound guy, the best bodybuilder on the planet. And I remember a quote from him. He's like a cop in Arlington. But he says, everyone wants to have big muscles, but no one wants to lift those heavy-ass weights. And I think there's a hard truth to that. Because here in a few years, around 40 or 50 or so, she's going to want kids. And it's going to be too late. And not everyone, listen, and I hate to paint with a broad brush because there are people out there, small percentage of the population, they can be just as happy as anyone else without kids, and they just didn't get that gene or they didn't get that instinct. But the normal experience for all human beings through 200,000 years of having Homo sapiens on this planet is to form a family, having children, raising your children. It's a beautiful thing. And once you do it, you feel like, oh my goodness, all these instincts are kicking in. Like when you were a kid and you didn't know why you were so angry until you took a nap and you're like, oh my God, I feel so much better. Well, there's like a lot of stresses in your life, a lot of instincts that are just gnawing at you, especially when you're in your 20s about having a kid. And then when you have a kid, you're like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But I think overall, foregoing children is not the path to being happier. Sure, Chappell Roan's going to be happier today because she gets to stay up and party all night and take tequila shots while some of her peers are up with a crying baby who has colic. But one day, you will ask Chappell Roan if she regretted that, if she regretted foregoing kids. She might say yes. But for all these mothers out there who aren't going out and partying and who are forming a family, and all the fathers who are right there going next to it with them, none of them in 20 years are going to regret the sacrifices they made. You want to talk about happiness? Let's fast forward to the end of life. See who's more happy. See who's when you die and you're surrounded by your kids and your grandkids and, God willing, even your great grandkids, maybe a couple of nieces and nephews in there. Or would you like to die, cold and alone with, I don't know, maybe your tour manager in there and a music producer and some guy you called a boyfriend off and on for the last couple decades? And the I don't want to say scary part about this, but the sad part about this is this whole idea of discouraging children and family formation. It's a weird form of suicide. It's not even suicide. It's like an auto-genocide. But is Chappell Roan right? Are you supposed to be happy when you have kids? Is having kids, does that make you less happy? What do you think about that statement, ladies? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Look, I hope she doesn't regret this. I hope she changed her mind and has kids, or maybe when she gets to be in her mid-40s and she's like, no, I'm still okay with that. But you and I both know several of our friends who party too much and didn't have kids, and now they're in their 40s, and they would trade all of those parties back for one chance at one baby. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you're just joining us, one of the biggest pop stars on the planet right now, Chappell Roan, I think she was on the Call Her Daddy podcast. Remember the one that Kamala was on? Anyway, let's not get into that. This is Chappell Roan. No one with kids is happy in her orbit.
All of my friends who have kids are in hell.
Hell.
I don't know anyone. I actually don't know anyone who's like happy and has children at this age. I have like a 1-year-old, like 3-year-old, 4 and under, 5 and under. I literally have not met anyone who's happy, anyone who has like light in their eyes, anyone who has slept.
Now, for those of us who have had babies, we find this absolutely appalling. If you still haven't had babies because you're too young or you just skipped that whole process, you still probably get it. You don't have the same sort of visceral reaction that we do. But I remember kind of buying into this thought process when I was, in late teens, early 20s. Having a baby is the most scary thing in the world, and your life is going to change. It'll never be the same. And we even joked about some of our older friends, or I don't know, friends that are our age, when they get married and have a kid, they just disappear. Oh, yeah, whatever happened to Tommy? Oh, we lost him. What happened? Did he die? Did he move to Colorado? No, he got married. So, no more friend there. And so I figured I was just going to be like walking the plank, basically. Best thing that ever happened to me. How many people do you know that talk about their kid? Best thing that ever happened to me. How many single moms do you know where they were left destitute by the baby's dad, and then they had to go move back in with their parents and take in whatever crappy job that they could get, and then they went to night school at night while working a full-time job while trying to raise a baby on their own, and it's the best thing that ever happened to them. Boy, I think we need to get that message out, because this whole idea that babies and forming a family is ruining your life, this is the kind of thing that collapses a society. 800-288-9227. This is Nicole in Lowry Crossing. You're on WBAP. What do you think?
Hey, James.
Hey,
Having
Nicole.
babies is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I have an 8-week-old and an 18-month-old.
Oh, so you have Irish twins pretty much.
Yes, I do.
Are you Irish?
I'm not Irish.
Not even part? Party feels like it.
Jewish.
So where do you
Not
think this
even
is coming from? Do your friends have that same sort of fear of babies?
Yes, I think so. I think it's social. Do you hear him here in the background? I think it's social media and what the left message has been for so many years on feminism, really.
Yeah, and I kind of want to blame feminism a little bit for this, but also it's more general than that, because I hear people who are definitely not feminists that just love to tell you how difficult it is to be a parent and how it's harder than ever. And, I don't want to bring a baby into this world, not with the world like this. And then when I actually got into being a parent, I have 4 kids now. I was like, this is way easier than everybody made it out to be. We have so many tools at our disposal, and whatever knick-knack made of plastic that you need was invented long before we got here. And we have these strollers that collapse into a car seat that use the buckle. I mean, it was much easier than I expected.
I'd agree. And I'm tired, but it's so worth it. And my husband is really hands-on, which I'm grateful for, and I think that makes it all the more easier.
Yeah, I think that's got to be a big player in your happiness level is the person that you chose to procreate with. How are they doing with it? Are they still around, number one? Are they much help, number two? And I don't just mean bringing in an income. I mean, like, I don't want to brag here, ladies, not trying to make you all jealous, but I have changed thousands of diapers because wife stayed home for a little while and I worked. But if we were both in the house, we just took turns on diapers. And so I didn't do half as much work as she did. But when I was around, we tried to split it a bunch. And if you have a partner that helps, you'd be hard pressed to not at least be grateful for your position in life. Katina in Fort Worth, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
I told your call screener is one of the most rewarding things, but I'd want to say that being a mother is the most rewarding thing that has ever happened to me. And I got married not knowing I wanted to be a mother. And actually, I mean, it's hard, definitely at times, but being the most rewarding thing, and I'm a Christian. I live my life for my Lord Jesus Christ, and raising children has really brought me closer, and losing my life for his sake has really, I found purpose in life. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like I wouldn't go back to my life of sin. Yes, it was
Whoa,
fun, but I wouldn't
yeah.
go back.
Well, I
wouldn't
like
go
how
back.
you said you gave up your life for his sake, because I mean you didn't die, but same thing that happened to me. I immediately had to become a different person. Because before I had the baby, if I wanted to take a new job and it was in another state, I didn't have to consult with anybody. I didn't say what school district are we going to be in, or can I support this lifestyle, or is this what's best for my kids? And now when I have to choose a job, it's all those questions come up and they just weren't there before. So yeah, you're a different person, but I think Katina will agree. You're a better person. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Thank you, Katina in Fort Worth, for your call. What do you think about that? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. No one with young kids is happy? Is this dangerous propaganda, or people just like to complain? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM and 93.3. Welcome back to the show. If you're just joining us, we're having a pretty hot discussion over here. Chappell Roan, who, if you don't know her, your kids know her, maybe your grandkids, but she's one of the biggest pop stars in the world right now. I like a couple of her songs. I like Chappell Roan. But she, in a podcast interview, said that no one in her orbit, none of her friends that have young kids are happy. And my concern here is that just this general anti-family idea, and I'm not blaming Mary Tyler Moore. I'm not blaming Murphy Brown, but we have had these sort of culture war issues where you would think we all agree, forming a family and having kids and house in the suburbs, white picket fence. That's the American dream, right? Well, not to some people. For some people, it's hell. Not exaggerating.
All
hell.
of my friends who have kids are in hell.
Hell.
I don't know anyone. I actually don't know anyone who's like happy and has children at this age. I have like a 1-year-old, like 3-year-old, 4 and under, 5 and under. I literally have not met anyone who's happy, anyone who has like light in their eyes, anyone who has slept.
While we were on the break there, it was pointed out to me by a guy named Steve. How many times does she say like in that clip? But before I get back to the phones, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Let's count it. How many times does she say like in this 20-second clip? Ready? Go.
All of my friends who have kids are in hell. I don't know anyone. I actually don't know anyone who's like happy and has children at this age. I have like a 1-year-old, like 3-year-old, 4 and under, 5 and under. I literally have not met anyone who's happy, anyone who has like light in their eyes, anyone who has slept.
Yeah, so we got a literally in there too. Well, that was like what, five, 6. I appreciate the effort, sir, but it gets a lot worse than that, Steve. The reason why I think maybe this is part of a larger movement, Jasmine Crockett was asked, what's your message to Trump voters who are discouraged when they see what he's doing, who are upset when they see how he's actually governing. And she said she got hoodwinked, or they got hoodwinked, you got hoodwinked. But then she kind of spills into a similar train of thought here. Jasmine Crockett.
This is what I say. I say you got hoodwinked, and that's okay. That's okay. Because as I was just telling somebody just a minute ago, I have dated in my life. I know they've been talking about whether or not I'm married and all this other stuff. I'm not married, never married, okay? Just want to get that out there. But I have dated. And I will say, any of us that have ever dated, we've been hoodwinked a time or two, where we just sat there and we thought that he was going to be so great for us because he sold us on all the things, or her, okay? And then we realized they ain't. That's where we are, and that's okay. What matters is that you wake up and you say, this is not the one for me.
I don't want to paint with the broad brush and say everyone that made it to the age 40 being single, there's probably something wrong with you. But I will say my suspicion is for most of the people who made it to age 40 and couldn't find someone to stand them long enough to get married, there might be something wrong with you. Again, there's exceptions to the rule. And if you're 40 and you're single and you never got married, I'm not talking about you. You're listening to the James Show, so you're already cool. You're grandfathered in. What do you think? 800-288-9227. Stephanie in Lake Dallas, what do you think?
You were talking a little bit a while ago about people who, were single parents, for whatever reasons, maybe not through fault of their own. I raised my kid up pretty much, I would say single, but not really, because I was really fortunate to have great support from family and friends, church members, things like that. But that's the whole point that you're talking about, like this creation of families. And my son is now a 26-year-old adult. While he knows that right now he doesn't want to have a wife and children, he knows that ultimately that is his goal, is to have a wife and children. And so I'm perfectly content being in my 40s, not being a grandparent yet. He's perfectly content in his 20s, not being married and having children yet. He has a long way to go before he can, before he's kind of out of time to have kids and things like that. I'm grateful that he is taking into consideration the things that I had to sacrifice and the things that I had to go through to be a good parent to him. I wouldn't trade any of that for the world. Back then, yes, I was saying, oh my gosh, when am I going to sleep? And I was working 3 part-time jobs and going to school full time, and it was difficult, but I was happy. I loved my child more than anything, and I would do those things for him 100 times over if I could. I would make those same sacrifices for him. He's a wonderful human. Despite not having a dad in the house, he has grown up to be a wonderful young man. He works very hard. He's very respectful. And like I said, he's made his decisions. Right now, I don't want a wife. I don't want children. I want to enjoy my singleness. There's nothing wrong with that, decision to do that and being responsible enough to not bring a child into the world when you're not ready. But to completely eliminate the option and say, I'm just not going to have any children because no one I know with children is happy. Like, I would review what kind of people you're, what's the word, surrounding yourself with. If you're around a bunch of people who have children and they're not happy, maybe find a new group of friends.
Yeah,
because-
well, look, there's a lot of people out there in the influencer space. Like, I think of like a Chelsea Handler who brags about not having a kid, and she's 50, so she can just get up whenever she wants and start drinking martinis at 10 a.m. and then go skiing on a Blue Diamond ski slope in a bikini, carrying a drink if she wants because she doesn't have kids. And isn't this great? And look, if that's good, cool, if that makes you happy. But if everyone acted like Chelsea Handler, then the human species would cease to exist. Damn it. And if everyone acted like me and Stephanie and now Lacey and Weatherford, the human condition would continue for at least another generation. Lacey and Weatherford, what do you think about this?
Hi. So my personal experience is that the second they handed me my first child, I never wanted to live so bad in my life. I wanted to be immortal. Even after 15 years of marriage and he ditched us, it's still, it's the most purposeful thing I've ever done.
Yeah, I got that immortal feeling because she doesn't know. Whenever someone hands you your kid, you're like, I have these new superpowers. Like if I need to stay awake for 5 days in a row, I'll do it. Yeah.
And but professionally, I see a running theme. I'm a counselor, a licensed counselor, and professionally, I see a running theme among young women who are scared. They do want children, they do want a family, but they have so many women and in their life that have been deserted by men and the father, and they see how hard it is doing it single. And of course, I always tell them anything worth having is going to be difficult.
Yeah, you've probably seen the worst of it because the people that are usually in my orbit, they're not the ones that end up going to visit you, Lacey, for some help. But what I've seen
now, I work in nursing homes, and I'm seeing end of life, and the people with children are happier.
That's what the surveys say. Absolutely. Well, your perspective was a great addition to the show, Lacey and Weatherford. Here's also what I've seen. I've heard a lot of women like Chappell Roan, who, by the way, Chappell Roan is 27 now, so she's still got a little bit of time. But I've heard all these women, I'm never having kids, I'm never getting married. But then one day, they meet some fella who just pushes some button that no one else has pushed before, and all of a sudden, I think I do want to get married. I think I want to do have a family. I think I'd like to quit my job and just stay home and take care of the kiddos and clean the house and cook for my man, and I could just feel the feminism leaving my body. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Having a little too much fun with this. I'm James Parker. This is News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you've been listening for a while, I know you've heard this before, but new people are coming on every second. We're talking about this cut from Chappell, Roan. She is a pop star. If you don't know her, your kids probably know her, depending on how old you are. Maybe your grandkids know her. But, this isn't just isolated to her. There's just a general anti-family, anti-child sentiment. And, it's gone back through time immemorial. In fact, this is a story that repeats itself throughout literature and human history here. Think of like Pinocchio. If you want to be a little boy forever, you just go to this island and you can play all you want. You don't have to grow up and be a man and take on these other responsibilities. That's no fun. Having a kid, having a wife, having a career and a job. That's not. You just want to play all the time. And then, ironically, in Pinocchio, what did they turn into? Oh yeah, donkeys. Garrett got it. And what's the mascot for one of the political parties that encourages this? Yeah, you got it. Chappell Roan here. To get you all caught up, this was the cut we're responding to.
All of my friends who have kids are in hell.
Hell.
I don't know anyone. I actually don't know anyone who's like happy and has children at this age. I have like a 1-year-old, like 3-year-old, 4 and under, 5 and under. I literally have not met anyone who's happy, anyone who has like light in their eyes, anyone who has slept.
Man, how can you not have fun with a 3-year-old? Make a 3-year-old and then play with it for one afternoon and tell me if you're not in a better mood. These people have a really warped idea of what it means to do the most natural thing in the world. Like every living thing has the drive to do this, the instinct to do this, reproduce. How have you taken one of the most natural animal instincts and turned it into a negative? 800-288-9227. This is Brandy in Fort Worth. You're on WBAP. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm 61 years old. I got married at 20. I had my first child at 21. And I was married first. I didn't get married because I was pregnant. I wasn't too sure about having a child at first. But I got used to the idea and everything. And a week before I was to give birth, my husband told me he was a Marine and he was in Japan and he was living with a woman in Tokyo for 6 months and everything. And if I hadn't had a kid, I probably wouldn't have stayed with him, but I did stay with him. And it didn't do me any good. He left us. And I raised them 2 kids by myself. Okay? And I also went through Desert Storm and Desert Shield and Desert Storm with him. And then after that, I wouldn't even made him myself. So I can tell you, I know both sides of the military, but when it comes down to the marital thing, I was young when I got married. I didn't know myself. I married into a culture that would never accept me.
Can you explain that part? I'm sorry.
Here's the bottom line. I was in Suzuki, Japan, with no television, no telephone, no nothing, and I had a brand new baby. And I read books and everything, and I read them to her. I played music with her, and I didn't come from a very good background at all. But I tell you what, that child was a joy to me. And when I had the second child, he had cheated on me so many more times. And I loved that child, and that child was a joy to me. And he eventually left me for my best friend. And I had to go through all of that. And I raised those children, and they were a joy to me. And I tell you what, I'm a very intelligent woman. I have a southern accent, so people think I'm stupid, but I ain't. But, I'm very intelligent, and I cleaned houses so that I could just take my babies with me and work. And I worked 4 days a week. On Friday, we went down to the library. We checked out a whole bunch of books. And we checked out, between the three of us, all three of us were able to get library cards. We could check out books.
Brandy?
And CDs and everything.
We're getting a lot of depth here, but
music and literature.
Can you tie this back to the Chappell Roan comment?
Well, what was the Chappell Roan comment? That the people that she knows ain't happy because they're in families with babies? The people that, she said that the people that she knows that has babies ain't happy people her age. Well, I was 21 when I had my first. I was 26 when I had my second one. And I lost my marriage after that, and I made it work. And the thing is, children are a blessing from God, even if your marriage isn't blessed by God, because one participant doesn't believe in God. If you believe in God and you love your children, God provides, even when the husband doesn't.
I hear you, Brandy. But I'm going to cut it off there because I want to go to a similar comment here. 'Cause there's a lot of people who are saying what Brandy's saying. They want to come in and they want to tell you the troubles that they went through and how it was still worth it. Jonathan over here sent me a Facebook message. He said, "Listen to your show at work. Having a kid was definitely the best and hardest thing I've done. It quite possibly saved my life because I was forced to grow up. And I'm a single full-time dad with custody. Most important thing I've done with my life, hands down." I am hearing a lot of people say it saved their life, and I have seen that with my own eyes. In fact, way back in the day, back when I was actually at my first radio job, I had broken up with a girlfriend, and so I just crashed with my friend Dave. He was living with his girlfriend, and they had a spare bedroom, and they got into some shall we say chemical recreation that's illegal and also highly addictive. And so I had to get out of there as soon as possible. You ever live with meth heads? Not fun. And they were headed toward a downward spiral to either death or jail or a little bit of both. You know, Dave definitely did some time. But you know what pulled him out of it? One day she got pregnant. And they put the pipe down, never to go back. And I can absolutely say that having a kid saved their life. They're still together. The kid's now about to graduate high school. She'll be 18. But yeah, having a kid, not only was it not hell, saved their life. It gave them the only motivation they've ever had to put down some of the most terrible addictions that are possible here in North Texas. Boy, this is it's got real serious real quick, didn't it? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I guess I just want to leave you with, for those of you who are on the fence or scared of having kids, not only is it not hell, it'll be the best thing that ever happened to you. It's a lot easier than you think, but it's easy. Actually, it's just as hard as you think. You are more capable than you think. You have levers of power. You have instincts you haven't even tapped into yet that get turned on when you have a kid. Now I feel better. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You don't have to text me. Yes, you heard correctly. It's 1-877-EGGS for kids. That was not a real commercial. What's today? What's today, people? Oh, yeah, it's April Fool's Day. Suckers. Gotcha. All right, my next guest doing stellar work with Current Revolt. Tony Ortiz coming back on. Now, listen, I'm glad you're coming on because on yesterday's show, we had talked about the horrific viral video from the junior high in Bedford where the kid got ground and pound and then stomped unconscious while the teacher didn't even want to put down his coffee. You actually went to the school board meeting last night, or what was it, like just some public hearing? And I'm so glad you're coming on because I am shocked at how few people turned out to this.
Yeah, incredibly disappointing. Only 4 parents showed up.
Say that again. How many?
4.
Not 400, not 40. 4.
Yeah, four parents. And of the 4, I believe only 2 of them actually had children in the high school where the incident happened. The rest were in the district, but not the same high school. And to give that even more context, twice as many people showed up for a new music program that was being launched in the ISD. Compared to the violent incident that involved those 2 students.
All right. Now, I've seen it, and a lot of people listening have seen the video. For those of you who hadn't seen the video, there's 2 kids in a junior high, and one of them's on top of the other, just wailing on his face. And there's a couple of teachers who sort of haphazardly, just kind of half interested, try to intervene. And when they pull him up, the kid stomps on the other kid's head and knocks him unconscious. It's just horrific to see kids that young especially, be that brutal and violent. And how do we explain the lack of attendance to this meeting? I didn't know about it. Is it possible the parents in the Bedford and the HEB area didn't know?
I don't believe so. We spoke to, of the 4 parents, we spoke to almost all of them. And the common sentiment with the parents was that they were relatively happy with the district's response. And then, when the incident happened, the district did send out a letter to all the parents. The police even put out a statement. So, all the parents in the district were made aware of the incident. So they knew, right? Additionally, this thing has received national attention. So they knew. But again, only 4 parents showed up. We spoke to those parents, and the responses were interesting. Again, common thing was everybody was relatively happy with the district. One mother we spoke to blamed the incident on white on black racism.
Explain that one.
It doesn't make sense to me because if you watch the video, I mean, the black student is heavily beating on the white student without being stopped or restrained, knocks the kid out. I think according to reports online, he broke his nose. In the video, when you slow it down, you see a piece of white something fly out of his mouth. So it could be possibly busted a tooth of his. But she blamed it on white on black racism. I'd go figure. She didn't really explain. Another parent we spoke to said that everybody in the video was a victim, including the teachers and the students that were watching.
Oh, goodness.
Didn't really make sense. Another gentleman properly identified who the victims and the assailants were, but also agreed he wasn't happy with the teachers in this video who, like you said earlier, holding their cup of coffee while gently trying to stop a fight. It was pathetic and quite frustrating.
Do we know about the level of punishment the kid's getting?
As far as I'm aware, there's been no charges filed. Both students were suspended, and that's about the gist of it. That's really it.
Did you learn what started the fight? I heard the concept of anti-black racism. Did he call him the N-word or something?
2 parents we spoke to indicated that there was something involving bullying, but they didn't want to suggest anything. They really didn't know for sure. So they all linked it to bullying. But, I was talking with another person earlier, and, hypothetically, let's just say that the child did use the N-word. I still don't believe a response is the response of almost beating the child.
Oh, I don't believe that. But we have a lot of people that are listening to this show right now that thinks this kid got what he deserved if he used the N-word. Like, that is a justification for just a brutal beatdown and stomping on some kid's head until he's unconscious.
And that's a common sentiment with a lot of people, actually. There was an incident at University of Texas, Dallas a couple weeks ago where a transgender student took a bike lock and smashed the head of a Turning Point USA student's head and hurt her and hurt another man's arm. And on the school's Reddit page, a large chunk of students actually thought that the transgender student was in the right. They said, yeah, I understand that, we really don't condone violence, but Turning Point's really annoying. So, I'm kind of okay with the bike lock.
Yeah, because they're literally Nazis. Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Tony Ortiz from Current Revolt. Were there any other media outlets there?
Yeah, NBC was there, Channel 11 was there.
Oh, good.
WFAA Channel 8 was there. So believe it or not, it's kind of funny. There was I think there was more media there than there was parents talking about the issue itself.
That is wild. Okay. Anything about the fight that we don't know that you learned at the meeting?
No, the school it didn't really, it was in open session, and the school board meetings was from 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. at night. And they didn't take discussion about the incident until 8:30 p.m. So they waited until the very last minute.
They buried it.
They buried it, and the school also announced they wouldn't be commenting at all or responding at all to the parents who were issuing statements about the incident. But two of the parents suggested that the school needed to institute social emotional learning in order to stop these sorts of
Yeah, because that's the problem. Not enough social learning. All right, this is Tony Ortiz from currentrevolt.com. If you want to see the full interview with the one of the parents, I watched the whole thing, and it kind of helped you digest a little bit what was going on. But currentrevolt.com if you want to see Tony's rundown of the meeting from yesterday. Thank you very much, Tony Ortiz.
Thank you.
All right. Terrible story there, too. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the doctor shortage. Did you know we have a doctor shortage? We'll talk to Dr. Bill Hennessy about it coming up next on WBAP. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. Sports fans, have you downloaded the app? Have you added a little bit more fun to the sports you're already enjoying? Look, they break it down so much on Prize Picks. Like even within the game, you can make a game within a game. Like today, the Angels are going to be playing St. Louis. Now, there's the picture, Kyle Hendricks. Will he get one or more strikeouts in the first inning, or will he get 0? Because his number is 0.5, so you pick less or more. For the first inning, you could have a whole game that is decided in the first inning. But look, I've been going with the big picture stuff. I like going to the pro basketball, and you go to the statistics where it's points, rebounds, and assists, and then push their face, and you can see how they've done in the last 5 games beating their numbers. And so for a lot of these guys, it seems like they never beat their numbers. And I'm not saying it's a sure shot. No. This isn't a game of chance. This is a game of skill, my friend. But they give you all kinds of stats and help to help you understand it. And it's a lot easier than you might expect. America's #1 daily fantasy sports app is not the fantasy sports that you've been playing with your friends where, it takes forever to get a result. This is just you playing against the numbers, having a little bit of fun, and you get all the players on your team that you want first choice. So go check it out. Download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code WBAP. You get $50 with your first $5 play. So download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code WBAP and get $50 with your first $5 play. Prize Picks. Run your game. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Cost of healthcare, not only is it going up, it's going up faster than inflation, has been your entire life pretty much. And on top of that, we may be facing a doctor shortage coming up, but not because we don't have enough doctors. We just don't have the right kind of doctors. Let's ask another doctor. Dr. Bill Hennessy's coming back on the James Show. Explain to me, do we have a doctor shortage now, and is it about to get worse? Hey there.
Hot off the press, it's the President Trump signed a law that hospitals are no longer permitted to employ physicians. This will create tremendous doctor efficiency, the autonomy to create best decisions for patients, and it's the future of medicine.
Hang on a second. This is a breaking headline? Okay.
April Fools. Sorry,
okay.
guys.
You got me so good.
That's what I want.
You got me so good because I was not understanding how that was going to help anything. All right, jokes aside. Man, congrats on getting me. I fell right for that. What is our situation like? Are we in a doctor shortage now?
Yes. And there are three main reasons, and we can go one by one. One, follow the money. Two, the electronic medical record. And three, women. And the shortage is probably greater than the 90,000 doctors being reported.
All right. Well, explain all those. Women? How do we blame them for that?
Well, in the 1970s, 7% of physicians were women. Now it's 50%. But they don't put in the 70 and 80-hour work weeks that their male counterparts do. When you're in that 30, 40-year range, a lot of them are doing this thing called having a family, which means they want to work 20 or 30 hours and just part-time it and be home with the kids. And that's okay for their families, but it adds to the physician shortage.
Well, thanks a lot. Let's talk about some of the other reasons then. You say follow the money, the cost?
Yes. So the average family physician is making maybe $150,000 to $175,000 a year.
What?
That sounds good.
Well,
you take taxes.
Yeah, well, that's not a whole lot more than like the median household income. You hear doctor, you think that they're going to be living in a giant house in Highland Park.
Yeah, I do think that family doctors work their tails off, deserve to get paid more. But if they don't, they're coming out of medical school with at least $300,000 of debt. They're mortgaging a house while renting an apartment just to make ends meet. It doesn't make sense. So they're going to go into specialties because they can make more money to pay off the student loan debt. So financially, they have no choice.
Okay, now that all makes sense. Wouldn't that betray a bigger shortage of doctors in these specialty arenas?
You would think there's a day that, yes, there's going to be too many specialists and not enough primary care physicians. That day is today, but it's only going to get worse moving forward. There are a few programs where the student loan debts can be paid off if you join Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. There's ones where if you go into a rural area and give 3 to 10 years of your life, they'll pay off your debt. We need more innovative programs like that to put primary care into areas of great need.
All right. Dr. Bill Hennessy, cgasaves.com. Is that still your website?
Yes, it is. And our number one solution is get rid of the electronic medical record. It slows down all doctors by 25%. They're staring at iPads instead of looking at you and treating you like a patient.
Now that's interesting. All right. Go to CGA Saves if you have some big healthcare expenses and you need a consultant to help deal with that. That's what Bill Hennessy does in his day job. I appreciate your expertise, sir. Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Coming up next, in the next hour, we're going to talk about the meeting in Collin County, about the Sharia city that's proposed for East Collin County, Epic City. There's a few more, actually. I'm learning that there's like 4 of them that are proposed here in Texas. Erin Anderson from the Texas Scorecard actually went. We will talk to her and get her report. But coming up in the next segment, I'm going to play for you sort of a foundation before we talk to Erin Anderson. Now, there's a soundbite from Charlie Kirk where he was asked to explain why he thinks this is a Christian nation. And it's the best explanation you've ever heard. And so I think it's important we do that before we get into this talk about the Sharia city. So that's coming up on the James Show. Stick around. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome back to the big show. Here, I have a cool report coming up in the next segment. Aaron Anderson from TexasScorecard.com. You hear usually Brandon Walton's from Texas Scorecard or someone, Sarah Gonzalez. There's a lot of people from Texas Scorecard that ended up on the show. But she actually went to the meeting I was talking about on yesterday's show in Collin County, their commissioners court or judges or something or other. They were having a public hearing on the Sharia city. It's called Epic City. It's going to be, or it's proposed for eastern Collin County on the other side of the lake, just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And they want to make like a 400-acre Muslim themed. It almost sounds like a theme park, but it's not a theme park. You know, it'll have a mosque and a school and a bunch of residences there and some stores and some doctors, you know, some healthcare facilities, and it's all going to be Islamic themed. And there's a lot of people who are a little concerned about that. And so one of the things that comes up over and over and over, and I was listening to some of the meeting that was yesterday in Collin County, lasted a while. A lot of people were bringing up the fact that this idea of Sharia is incompatible with us, not only because of our Constitution, but because just generally speaking, we're a Christian nation. Not that everyone has to be a Christian to live here, but this nation was definitely found on the Judeo-Christian philosophy and principles. And being a Christian nation, there is some clear incompatibilities with both our culture and our Constitution. So both socially and legally, to let Sharia law just segregate itself like on purpose within our society, that's something that doesn't fly in a Christian nation. So one of the big comebacks to that is we're not a Christian nation, we're a secular nation. The founding fathers, most of them weren't even Christian anyway, or just whatever the excuse is. People like to act like this was just some secular experiment, and the foundational philosophy of it has nothing to do with the classic Judeo-Christian underpinning of Western civilization. The best comeback to that is from Charlie Kirk. So I went through and I pulled it out. He was sort of asked the same thing at one of his little college campus stunts where he goes and lets people ask him questions. And then I edited down so it would fit cleanly in this show. So before we talk about the Sharia City meeting in the next segment, I want you to hear this from Charlie Kirk. This is the best explanation on how America is a Christian nation.
Remember that we were a collection of states and colonies, and you need to read the state constitutions before anything else. 9 out of 13 of the original states required you to be a Bible-believing Christian to serve in government at the time of the founding. You could even in actually 13 out of 13 required a declaration of faith. 9 out of 13 required you to be a Protestant, except Maryland, which was Catholic, which still required a declaration of faith. In almost every single one of the original state constitutions, Pennsylvania included, they had, I profess Lord and Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior in the original state constitutions. So you remember, we're a collection of states before that. Secondly, 55 out of 56 of the original signers of the Declaration were Bible-believing, church-attending Christians. You asked about common law. So common law is inherited from Blackstone, who was Christian. Common law is an outgrowth of the scriptures. So let's go to 3 principles of common law: presumption of innocence, due process, and jury of your peers. All 3 are biblical principles. So, and all wrapped into the ultimate biblical principle that you shall not favor justice if you are rich or poor, which is in Leviticus 19, right before the most famous part of Leviticus 19, which is that you should love your neighbor as yourself. But before that is that in the administration of justice, you shall not favor the rich or the poor, which is the idea of blind justice. We get that in the West, which is incorporated also in the New Testament ideal. Neither slave nor Greek nor Jew, you are all one in Jesus Christ, which we get the idea of human equality. These are all biblical ideas. They're not Enlightenment ideas, which is they kind of get conflated at the time. But more importantly than that, they say that God was only mentioned 4 times in the Declaration of Independence. Well, that's a big deal, okay? Laws of nature and nature's God. The last paragraph of the Declaration reads as a prayer. It says, we appeal to the supreme judge of the universe. Who's the judge of the universe? Jesus Christ, as it says in Revelation, that Jesus will judge the earth on his throne. So in the Declaration, they were praying to Christ our Lord as a prayer very specifically. Thirdly, as I said on stage yesterday, Deuteronomy was by far the most quoted book, religious or non-religious, in the time of the founding when they were putting together the Constitution, more than John Locke, more than Montesquieu, more than Blackstone. So the book of Deuteronomy, which talked about laws, customs, traditions. It was Moses' farewell address as he's about to say goodbye, say, hey, good luck in Canaan, guys. Here's how you should set up your form of government. But finally, and most importantly, let's look at actually what the founders said. John Adams famously said the Constitution was only written for a moral, religious people. It was wholly inadequate for the people of any other. The body politic of America was so Christian and was so Protestant that our form and structure of government was built for the people that believed in Christ our Lord. One of the reasons we're living through a constitutional crisis is that we no longer have a Christian nation, but we have a Christian form of government, and they're incompatible. So you cannot have liberty if you do not have a Christian population. So that's just a surface level belief. So then they'll go to the First Amendment, which has two parts of the First Amendment which get conflated. First of all, separation of church and state is not in the U.S. Constitution. That is a single letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote in 1807 to the Danbury Baptist Convention in Massachusetts, assuring them that the government would not come after the church, okay, which is the opposite of what they would say. However, that was then resurrected by the Warren Court and the Burger Court in the 60s, where they said, hey, all of a sudden we're now going to make this as if it's the Constitution. It does say in the Constitution two things, which is the Establishment Clause and the Free Expression Clause. The Establishment Clause is that Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise thereof. What they were most worried about was a Presbyterian or a Anglican or a Quaker type religion taking over the federal government. Instead, it was that there is not going to be a state-run religion or a state-run government. Did you know that one of the first acts of Congress was taxpayer-funded Bible printing and distribution? Did you know that there were church services held in the Supreme Court building as late as the Jackson presidency in the 1820s? But going back to this idea of separation of church and state, and again, I could riff on this ad nauseum because it's just so ridiculous, right? Is that it's not biblical because first, it's not biblical. It's not constitutional because you go a layer deeper. People that even say that, do you believe in separation of morality and state? Nobody does. So all laws are a reflection of morality, and all morality comes from somewhere. There is no such thing as neutral morality. And we believe what the founders believed because they put it in the halls of Congress, they put it in the Supreme Court, and they put it all throughout the country, which is that the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments, is the core morality of how a society and a civilization should exist, right? The Ten Commandments of every person. And finally, and this is the kicker, if the founding fathers were not Bible-believing church-standing Christians, why did they put Leviticus on the Liberty Bell? Not John, not Psalms, not Proverbs, not Genesis, Leviticus. Most Americans can't spell Leviticus. Leviticus 25:19, proclaim liberty throughout the land of which you are in. It is one of the most sinister, most unsubstantiated lies that does not come up against any sort of academic scrutiny. This idea that the founding fathers were a bunch of Enlightenment common law deists. The reason they hate it is because the reason they must say this is that if we actually go back to our Christian roots and we go back to where we once were, it's America's best hope for revival and for a great future.
All right. I told you. Wasn't that the best explanation you've ever heard? So with that as our rhetorical foundation, coming up next, you're gonna hear from Erin Anderson from Texas Scorecard. She was at the meeting yesterday with the Collin County commissioners about the Sharia city that's planned for East Collin County. She's going to be at the one in Blue Ridge tonight about another Sharia city that's being proposed there. You'll hear from her next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. So we had a meeting last night for the Sharia City proposal that's happening in East Collin County. And man, I forget there is even an East Collin County. Like there's a whole nother part of Collin County on the other side of the lake. Yes, there is. And there's a big 402 acre tract of land. We talked about it for a big chunk of the show just yesterday in advance of the meeting that was happening yesterday during the show. In fact, the meeting went on for a long time, and there were quite a few people. Like we talked about the meeting that happened yesterday in Bedford about the viral video fight between the junior high kids, and only 4 parents showed up. Well, at this meeting, it's reported that over 400 people showed up. Aaron Anderson was there from TexasScorecard.com. Welcome, Aaron Anderson. So tell us all about the meeting. We missed it yesterday. What did we miss?
Oh, well, thanks for having me, James. I did not miss it. Luckily, I arrived early and was able to get in the main room and watch all the action. I can't tell you exactly how many people were there because there were so many in the overflow, but it was definitely a hot topic for a Monday afternoon.
All right. All but 2 of the people that spoke were against it. What was the general, the common thread of reasons why people oppose this?
All right. Well, just to backtrack for people that don't know, the project is called Epic City. Epic is short for the East Plano Islamic Center. This particular new proposed development is not in Plano, however. It's in an unincorporated part of Collin County, which means that the county will have the authorization when they start to submit their paperwork for their plans, which they have not done yet. So they're nowhere near submitting their plans. But the idea in their marketing brochure is that this will be a sort of an enclave for Muslim families, residential, senior living, school, a mosque, of course, all the amenities, all for this community to come and live together. Well, the problem being that that's not really allowed to have neighborhoods that are only restricted by religion. Just like you can't exclude a religion, you can't only include one. Now, the developers have since backpedaled and said, oh no, this is simply a master plan community. All are welcome. It just so happens that every single amenity, every single potential customer we've marketed to, and all of our sales pitches are specifically for Muslims. And that, of course, was the major point of contention for all these Collin County residents who said, hey, this is America. This is Texas. We don't do things like that. We don't have these exclusive compounds where people are choosing, to not assimilate into the general culture and society, and it's flat out discriminatory, as some of the investigations that the state agencies have started doing into how this group is doing business.
Yeah, kind of my next question there is, we already have the governor who's looking into it. We have the Texas Rangers are opening an investigation into the East Plano Islamic Center. We have the Texas Workforce Commission opening an investigation. Texas Fair Housing Act is being looked into. So they've already got a lot of attention from regulators and people like that. This doesn't sound like it's going to happen.
Well, we shall see. There's certainly a lot of, as you say, red flags that have been raised on a lot of levels, whether it's local regulations, state laws, or federal. That they've triggered a lot of again, things that don't look on the up and up. And from the original center that's operating now, as well as the development group they've put together to market the new developments, and they have sort of an interesting scheme going on. You, instead of just buying a lot like you normally would in a new neighborhood opening up, the potential new residents are purchasing like shares in a sort of a group buy-in into this community. So you don't buy a lot, you buy a share, which then entitles you to a lot. So that has raised some red flags.
Because then you're a part owner in the whole endeavor. You're an investor, not some guy who's buying a plot within a subdivision. And that kind of bothers me. For one thing, if it takes $80,000 to buy into this share, you're not just getting a lot. Are they just going to have one like legal entity that owns the whole thing that these investors are just a part of? Because if so, do they classify that as a mosque, and does no one have to pay property taxes after that? Or, they're doing some unconventional things here besides just making a Muslim themed subdivision. I mean, some of this is getting real sketchy, the stuff that you uncovered yesterday.
Well, that's right. And we the public didn't really know all of what was going on. And so, fortunately, County Judge Chris Hill, who's the county judge there in Collin, kind of moved up an informational meeting he had been planning because there were so many questions being raised. He had, the county lay out sort of what their role will be at such time if they start submitting their actual plans for this development. Then the county can review them and see if they're up to snuff as far as that goes. But meanwhile, at the state level, this, like you said, unconventional financing system is being looked at as well. And so you've got a lot of people involved in looking at how this is set up. So we don't know. They own the land. I went out to look because there's a lot of talk. I said, I want to see. Well, it's a big chunk of empty farmland and some really bad roads. I mean, the first thing they would have to do is build all new roads just to get any trucks back there to do anything else. It's mostly a marketing dream right now, and whether the ways that they've gone about trying to develop it end up triggering enough red flags that they're not able to go forward, we shall see.
Where you talk about the meeting you're going to tonight?
Yes, well, a similar development happening in Blue Ridge, Texas, also in northeast Collin County. But this particular planned development, a pair of developments by these same groups, is actually within city limits. So it's within the Blue Ridge city, which makes it a completely different setup as far as, rules and regulations. They have to go through, it's called zoning. And so the city of Blue Ridge has delayed in the past making a final determination whether they're going to rezone this particular property from, I think it's agricultural now, in order to allow this residential complex to be built. So we shall see. It's not on their agenda tonight, but I do know a lot of concerned residents are planning to show up like they did last month. We were there last month. It was on the agenda and they tabled it. And I suspect they are not going to do anything new tonight because city elections are coming up. And so I feel like they may be wanting to, A, see where the state is going on these issues, and B, let the next group, whoever gets elected after this election, then look at this and review it.
All right. Round of applause for the great reporting of Aaron Anderson for TexasScorecard.com. Thank you so much for going to these awfully boring meetings, but they're important, so I appreciate you passing along the info.
They're very important, so thanks for having me on to talk about them.
Good stuff. Thank you, Aaron Anderson. And listen, this is why I go to TexasScorecard.com on an almost everyday basis. If you're looking for alternative news that doesn't make you pull your hair out, that's one place. All right, more James Show on the way. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Sort of history is being made right now. I mean, it'll be in the book somewhere, but Cory Booker, senator, has been on the floor of the Senate since 7 o'clock last night, or maybe that's 7 o'clock Eastern time last night, I think is what it is. So it'd be 6 o'clock our time. So a little bit after the James Show ended yesterday, this dude got up there and he started speaking. Now, if you go to his social media, you can see that he put up, before he went on to the podium in the Senate, he said, I'm going to go give the longest speech in Senate history. He's still up there. He has been on the floor of the Senate. He spoke all evening, overnight, while we were all sleeping, and then this morning through the WBAP morning show and Casey and Vince. And when I sat down to do the show, he was speaking still. And they now have a countdown going on Yahoo News for him to break the record for the longest speech in U.S. Senate history. The current record for the longest speech in Senate history is Strom Thurmond of South Carolina. Strom Thurmond? You mean when he was a Democrat? Yeah. What was he? He was doing a filibuster. What was it? Oh, the Civil Rights Act of 1957. Yeah, that's the last time. That's what the record is. When the Democrats were filibustering civil rights of our black neighbors. It's a great record to break there. So here he is. He's still going. Let me just pull it up here. I went over to C-SPAN. He's still going.
Saying it is to extend or make permanent the Trump tax cuts. The overwhelming disproportionate benefit went to the wealthiest amongst us and the wealthy corporations.
So he's not saying anything of note. So he's been going now for 22 hours and 38 minutes. 22 hours, 38 minutes. So that would put him starting at 6 o'clock our time yesterday. Now, technically, this isn't a filibuster because a filibuster is when you use the Senate's rule for unlimited debate to sort of block or delay a procedure or a vote. And there wasn't anything yesterday. So he's not even filibustering anything. He just wants to break the record. He's doing this. Why? For attention, to make a headline, to control the narrative, to get some I don't know, to get some FaceTime because he's going to be asked about this and it'll be in the record books. And this is really good for Cory Booker, but it doesn't actually do anything. And it's almost like the perfect encapsulation of his whole movement and his whole party right now. You don't actually need to do anything. You just need to go out and get some attention and act like you're doing something and scream loud for a really long time and get real emotional and get real upset. Because some people are enjoying this because they're cutting out little pieces of it, like the more fiery pieces. This was from right before the James Show started. This was 1:30 our time. And little clips like this are being passed around social media right now. But
it's a call to the conscience of this nation to say, I will not stand for another American to lose their health care for a billionaire. I will not stand for another veteran who's dedicated to stopping the suicide of other veterans to lose their job. I won't stand for the air quality in my community.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's all I hear too. So let me go ahead and play you the backup because I think he's going to pass that record here in about 2 hours and then walk off and be done with it. But this is how he explained himself. Do you have the dump button piled up? Because I didn't preview this before I played it, which is usually a no-no. But I trust that Cory Booker didn't say any cuss words on his social media feed here.
To be recognized, and when I am not going to stop speaking. I'm going to not stop standing. I'm going to go for as long as I'm physically able to go. I've been hearing from people all over my state and indeed all over the nation calling upon folks in Congress to do more, to do things that recognize the urgency, the crisis of the moment. And so we all have a responsibility, I believe, to do something different, to cause, as John Lewis said, good trouble, and that includes...
What? Fantasy?
I'm about to go to the Senate for...
And then it just repeats because it's on Twitter. What fantasy? What are you talking about? People are asking me, we got to do more. Well, this isn't doing anything. This is talking. Talking isn't doing something. Just being rhetorical means no action is happening. You're not passing a bill. You're not proposing a bill. You're not changing a law. You're not hiring anyone, firing anyone, impeaching a judge. You're not doing it. You're just talking. That's not real. That's not a thing. You're not even stopping a bill. You're not even doing a real filibuster. You're just like, I'm going to go break the record. because we got to do something. Well, that's not doing it. Go break 10 records. Y'all just keep doing this. Just keep doing this for the rest of the year. Just tie down the Senate until we have to vote on the budget again at the end of September. That's for all I care. This isn't even doing anything. This is just a showboat. Explain to me what he's accomplishing besides showboating, besides breaking the record, besides erasing another ugly stain of Democrat Party history because the previous record was a Democrat filibustering the rights of your black neighbors. Anyway, you're going to hear a lot about that when you get home. It's going to be on the news. It's going to be all over your phone. And I just thought you'd like to get it ahead of it. While it's still happening, it's not even over yet, but he's probably going to break the record. He only has to go less than 2 more hours now. So, yay. Congratulations. What an accomplishment. What did you accomplish? I gave the longest speech in the floor of the Senate history. Okay, but what did you actually do? Well, I gave a speech. Yeah, but how did that help anybody? How did that change anything? This is like the same sort of mindset. That has any progress or achievement been done by someone holding a foam core sign outside a city hall on a Saturday? Why do y'all think this is doing something? Blocking traffic does not improve the world. Giving a long speech does not help anybody. Well, yeah, but we're just fighting against Orange Man bad. You're not fighting, you're talking. That stuff just cracks me up. These people, when they pass gas, they turn around real quick and sniff it, don't they? They just love themselves. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. You don't have to respond to that last little metaphor, though. Coming up next, a recent survey shows 57% of employees say they feel behind with this new technology of AI. Find out more coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. We're now living in a new world, the world of artificial intelligence. Some are kind of scared of it and think that one day the robot revolution is going to take over, and that'll probably happen on a long enough time scale, but we'll be long gone by then. We're about to enjoy a new golden age of human and computer cooperation, man and machine working together in this new AI era. And my next guest is going to help us make a little more sense of it. John Schultz is back on the James Show. Welcome, John. How's it going?
It's going really well today. How about yourself?
Well, I'm good. I'm excited about the AI, because some people are worried it might take away their jobs or whatever. But I'm looking on the bright side, because if I can perfect AI just a little bit more than I have now, we could totally replace our board op, Garrett, and put him out of a job and replace him with AI that's probably a lot cheaper and has a better attitude and less likely to miss work because I got to go to the dentist. But John Schultz, I mean, on average here, are more people seeing AI as a force for good or bad?
I believe everybody's seeing it as a force for good. I've always believed, and it's kind of one of those I'll call them Schultzisms that technology is agnostic. It can be used for good or for evil. It depends upon the person behind the screen. And so what you're seeing in today's workforce and in today's world is a lot of good has come out of technology. And I see a lot of good coming out of the AI world. We're seeing that with our own business. We're a small software company focusing in a small industry, the golf industry. And all we're trying to do is help out that poor player, enhance his game, and enhance the experience for all players. And so we actually use AI to do that. And so we have these golf course superintendents scratching their head every day, their hands in the dirt, and they're just trying to basically do the very best job they can. And one of the things they don't have is unlimited time. And so we're giving back some of that time. And that's where AI really helps out. It really accelerates the decision-making process. I like to say we're building an intelligent decision-making process for that practitioner out in the field. So I see it all good. The internet, everybody was fearful of the internet in the 90s of, this is going to change the world and we won't need anybody. But what you see today, all that technology advancements from the 90s through the 2000s up to current today have been all good. There are some evil people out there, and it's important for us to be aware of it and to use our reasoning skills to basically identify good from bad.
Well, it's not good if you're like a newspaper printing service, but for the rest of us, like on average, it's been a net positive here. So talk about, you've had to integrate AI into your workspace and help other people integrate AI into their workspace. What's your advice to people out there who are small business owners or managers at their place of work, and they want to start integrating AI into their workplace?
Well, I tell everybody when they start to look at new technology, you need to crawl before you walk, and you need to walk before you run. And so you're not going to be able to grab it all in one single day. And it's just like with any technology. I remember having conversations with people when PCs first came out. And they said, well, gee, you're so further advanced than I said, well, yeah, I pretty much have been around the industry for a long time. But just take it one step at a time. Today is the best day to start learning all about AI. There's all kinds of free things out there. You can go to I'd like to suggest OpenAI. I'm a little bit more comfortable with that than the DeepSeek. That's a Chinese product, and I feel that there's some nefarious issues happening with the Chinese, and they're basically collecting data that we really don't want them to be collecting. But if you're just careful with it, use it to explore. Use it to write an email. I use an artificial intelligence product we have here in our office. I'll write a nice, crafty email, and I think I wrote the best email around, and I'll throw it into AI to say polish and enhance this in a professional manner. And wow, it comes back. It makes me a literary wizard whenever it comes to writing emails. So I think it's a tool to basically find a comfort zone within your workspace or within your daily lives. You could even look up if you're at home wanting to cook dinner, say, hey, I'm trying to cook dinner. Give me the latest and greatest recipe for me to cook, use hamburger meat to basically cook something for tonight. And it comes back. It'll simply amaze you on a daily practice. And those are little innocent things that you can start to understand what the capabilities of AI are and what's not available.
All right. Well, thank you very much, John Schultz. Got to run, but you can find him at johnschultz.com. He's got a good little podcast that you can find it wherever you listen to podcasts, or I see it on YouTube as well. John Schultz. All right, that's going to about do it for the James Show. We have WeatherCon, the 2025 WeatherCon. It's coming up at the end of the month. Now that it's April, I can actually say that. April 26th, Saturday at 9:30 in the morning until 1:30 p.m. Frontiers of Flight Museum. For more information, go to WBAP.com. Mark Levin's next. I'm James Parker. This is News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.